What's up guys, AT here, back with another Bulldog Gear vlog. Today we are visiting Katie McDonnell and Anton Simpson-Tidy. They are both professional stunt performers. Katie is a professional parkour athlete and Anton is a martial artist. We're going to take a look around this incredible space today, see what they've got, why they've got it, and how they put this space to use in some ways you might not be expecting. Let's go. Good morning guys, how are you doing?
Good, thank you, how are you?
Not too bad, thank you very much for having us in your space. It's absolutely lovely. I don't believe I just used the word lovely, but
Quite a lovely space.
It is. I don't think I've ever seen a home gym like it really, like a mixture of wood and cork and plants. It's really cool. Whose inspiration was that? Or was that Before we get into why you've got this stuff, let's talk about why you would need it. So what do you guys do?
We're stunt performers.
I'm a martial artist.
And I specialise in parkour.
And is there anything that people might have seen you in before?
We've got a couple of posters up around the gym, you can see.
Last time we spoke on the podcast, you can actually say, I don't think you could...
Could I not talk about Eternals then? Maybe that was...
Yeah, I think because Force Awakens was already out, wasn't it? So I don't think... It was Eternals,
So Eternals hadn't come out yet, Star Wars was already out. We've got we did one last year that we probably still can't talk about, but Anton's hat might...
It's going to give it away.
But we're probably not allowed to talk about that. Do you reckon?
No idea.
No idea. Probably best not to say too much, just in case.
But if anyone wants to freeze frame and break Anton's embargo.
I mean, to be honest, you can just go on IMDb and see the stuff we worked on. But probably Star Wars was the biggest one. That's where we first met on that. I was doubling Daisy Ridley and Anton was
A Knight of Ren.
A Knight of Ren.
Very cool.
If anyone knows what a Knight of Ren is. Star Wars fans will.
I do, sorry. So obviously two rigorous sort of active jobs, and your pursuits outside of being stunt people obviously requires a great level of sort of physical durability as well. What first kind of made you want to have the home gym as opposed to travelling to gyms?
I think for me, shall I go first? Especially when we are working on a movie, you're working really long hours, you're working every day of the week, sometimes weekends as well, and it becomes very easy to stop with your fitness regime altogether because you get home from a long day at work and the last thing you want to do is go out and get in the car and drive to a gym.
Just have to stay consistent.
Yeah, so for us it just means that we're more likely to go to the gym if it's just downstairs. But also it's just quite nice having your own space and
we can have that we want.
And I think also for social media, I put quite a lot of my training on social media, and it's less awkward filming yourself in your own gym than filming yourself in a public gym. But I can't say I got a home gym just so I could film myself for Instagram.
No,
that was part of the reason.
You've done a good job of softening it.
Yeah.
So what's the kind of reason behind some of the stuff you've got in there? I wonder if you could talk us through kind of what you've got and how it, the reason behind it.
Yeah, so one of the reasons that we wanted to go for a foldable rack, well, we wanted the rack in the first place. It's good for parkour, obviously, for me to be able to do squats and work on my explosive strength. But the reason in particular we wanted to go for the folding rack was because we often use this space as well for, Anton in particular uses it for fight choreography. He'll be coming up with some fight sequences that he wants to test out.
Kicks or weapons.
Yeah, and when he's flinging weapons around, it's nice to be able to fold that all back against the wall, and you actually have just a lot more space.
Yoga, stretching.
Yeah. For me as well, I decided to go for the long base? the longer one.
You've got a lot of distance from the wall.
Yeah, because for me, when I'm doing some stuff on the bar, which maybe is more like calisthenics style stuff, which I don't do too much of in here, it's a low ceiling anyway, but it just gives me options to be able to have a bit more room away from the wall. Plyometric stuff, obviously doing parkour, plyometrics is quite a big part of that. But also what I like about these is where you can have them at the different heights. I can set up little parkour setups in here as well. I can use them as vault blocks. And I've got a rail that I use as well for rail prees, so I can actually work on stuff like common prees in here using the plyometric boxes. So actually for parkour they work quite well as well. So also sometimes I'll have a setup like this so I can use it for training precision jumps. So maybe I'll show you. You might want to give one a go, I don't know. So I try to aim to be able to take off before the cork, so that's kind of like a distance that is good for working on my technique and my landings. So like that. I mean, that was a little bit arch heavy. I should have landed a bit more on the balls of my feet, but why don't you give it a go?
So I basically just want to land with precision and just stop myself.
Yeah, sort of ideally as you come in the air, you sort of come in where you can see your feet in front of you, almost with a flexed foot, and you almost like catch the edge on the ball of your foot and roll up onto your toe.
That's way too much for me to think about.
Give it a go.
I just focus on not falling over. So from the cork.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, not bad. And actually, what you'll find is that when you then get to an outside wall, because it doesn't have like the flexion in it at all, that you might have actually been able to stick. So it's quite good training on something like this because you had to be like even more precise. Nice. Okay. So as well as training precisions on this, I also have a rail that I use as well to work on rail prees. Yeah, so I do a similar sort of thing. I put it up against the wall so it's not going to budge anywhere. I mean, to be honest, it doesn't really move anywhere anyway. But you can go for a similar sort of thing. Now you've got the added thing of not wanting to hit your knees on the wall, so that's even more techie. But yeah, so I just work on. Obviously, I touched the wall, so that's a fail. That's a fail for me. So if you want to give any a go, but it's the same sort of idea of coming in, seeing the rail in front of you, coming in with a flexed foot.
So you're not even touching the wall. You're completely sticking.
Well,
it.
That's the idea. That's. Yeah, little touch from the wall, but I had a little touch on the wall as well.
So. That's super cool because I think parkour, as we were saying before, is obviously it's an outdoor sport. It's you'd instantly think it's even if you're indoors, you're going to require a ton of space. So the fact that you can actually set things up.
Yeah, you can work on like individual movements and just work on your technique for individual moves, rather than having to put together a whole sequence. It's nice to be able to just hone in on one movement in particular.
Before having this space, did you think that parkour training would be something that you'd be able to do in a garage gym? Had that ever sort of occurred to you before?
Probably not to the extent.
Yeah. I always knew that I'd try and get little bits that would help out with it, like the rail pre-trainer that I've got, and stuff like that. So I always knew I'd be able to do little bits in here, but definitely these have been great.
So something you just sort of organically
add
to that. That's pretty cool. What about the dumbbells and kettlebells and things like that? How do they sort of fit into your training?
Would just use them how most people would, really.
General strength training.
General strength training stuff. We use those. I guess how most people would use them. But obviously they're great to have when we use them all the time. Punch bag is great. Yeah, that's mainly for you, but I use it a bit as well for working on my kicks and things. As a stunt performer, it's useful having a punch bag.
Yeah. How important is the strength training to what you do, as in parkour and martial arts, but also for the stunt work?
I think for me it's more in terms of like injuries prevention. Just making sure that the muscles and joints are strong enough to take, especially as stunt performers. Just to make sure that it's strong enough to take the impact and be able to recover.
Take a lot of big spans.
Yeah.
As a stunt performer, getting flung into walls.
Yeah, obviously take a lot of falls, a lot of big impacts, flying through the air. So it's just make sure that our muscles and joints can recover from that.
I think we spoke at length about this on the podcast about. I think people think about strength training as just getting stronger or just getting bigger or whatever it is, but you're also building that buffer zone, aren't you, between injury, which is so important. And it's odd that it's not a huge selling point of strength training, but I guess it's because it's something you can't see until it happens.
Definitely noticing it more the older I get, how easy it is to get injured. And as I was saying to you earlier, training in the cold, a lot of the times as a parkour athlete you're training out in the cold, and I feel like I could be so prone to injuries, so it's so important for me to keep myself busy in the gym and strength training just to avoid those injuries.
So talk me through this area here, because I've never seen this cork drawing that looks amazing. So was this something that you'd seen and sort of thought about before you had the space, or is this something that came along?
I mean, as a martial artist, I would train on jigsaw mats, and you do a lot of yoga,
yoga and handstands and that kind of thing, where it's just nice to have, I mean, it's not super soft, but you don't really want it to be super soft and squishy for handstands anyway, but it's just nice to have an area that feels like, I almost think of this as my Zen area at times, where I can do my stretching.
Area.
Yeah, you've got a different way of it.
Yeah, because I like to kick it, I'm like, I like to do yoga and stretch.
Yeah, I really like this idea of having a purpose-built space all the time, like you say, so it feels like this is the environment where you do that. You know, you've got a squat rack, you know, you can squat, press, bench out of it.
Yeah.
You've got that on them.
Yeah, I'll do a little yoga class here, looking at my screen.
Have you made a conscious effort to bring in elements that would, you know, not luxury, it's the wrong word, but it's like nice, it's enticing, it makes you feel like you work, because that's the impression I get in this space versus my damp, dark garage gym, is that it's very inviting, and I guess on a day where perhaps you're not as inclined to train.
Yeah, I mean, as I said before, we can be quite lazy. So we wanted to make it as appealing as possible, and it's actually a space where I really enjoy spending time in here, and I know that if it felt dingy in here, I'd be so much less likely to actually get down here every day and get my workout done. It'd be very easy to just be like, no, actually I'll just sit on the sofa and watch Netflix. For me, how a space looks affects so much how I feel in the space, whereas I don't think it affects you as much in that way. Like Anton can quite happily work in a really messy room, whereas for me, if I'm going to sit down at my laptop and get an edit done or something, the whole room needs to be tidy, so my mind then feels tidy and I can concentrate. So for me, how a space looks like really affects how I feel.
You find yourself training in here multiple times a day?
Good question.
I tend to do one main session, and then I'll come down and maybe just do some kicks or like the mocap stuff that I've been doing.
Do you want to explain about what mocap is?
Yeah, this is super interesting actually, the mocap stuff.
So motion capture, so I've got a motion capture suit which basically just records my body movements, and then I can put it onto my laptop and edit into like a fight. So what I've been using it for is fight scenes. So I will record my movement, and then I'll film myself and record the opposite person's movement of who I'm fighting, which is myself, and then I can put it into a 3D space and record, rather than having multiple people that I need to fight against. I can do it just by myself, which is what I've been doing in here.
Yeah, so you might have like a workout in the morning, and then at a different point in the day you might come down and do a mocap session, or like a fight choreography session.
Yeah, mocap, fight choreography, kicks, stretch, but yeah, it tends to just be like one main session of like strength training.
For me personally, I'll try and get my one sort of strength training session done or fitness session done in the day, and then I'll either have a session where I've gone out and trained parkour somewhere else, so either outside or at a parkour gym. But if I don't get a parkour session done, then I might decide that I'm going to have a bit of a handstand session. I quite like training handstands. I'm not particularly good at handstands, but I do enjoy doing them, so I might come down in the evening, having already worked out here in the morning, and just do either like a yoga session or a handstand session, something like that. But I tend to not do both of those things at the same time, so they'll be in two separate sessions in the day.
So do you think having your own space means you don't have to kind of be more discerning in what you actually choose to train, because you can always, you can come back in, you don't sort of have to prioritise one thing and the other. I think that's something a lot of people don't think about. Not only you saving time, but you can maybe come and do another discipline or practice something that maybe you wouldn't put the energy into going back out to drive to the gym, or you wouldn't have the time to do it at the gym.
Yeah, and actually when I did used to go to just a normal gym, public gym, I used to do my workout in the gym, and then right at the end of the session, that would be when I'd choose to train some handstands, at which point I'm already pretty exhausted, so I wasn't maybe getting the best out of a handstand session, whereas being able to do them separately and doing one in the morning, one in the evening, does mean that I get a little bit more out of both sessions rather than having to have them together.
Well guys, thank you very much for showing us around today. Where can people find you online?
I'm just at Katie McDonnell, just my name.
Yeah, at Anton Simpson-Tidy.
Just our names, very simple.
Yeah, straight on Instagram, that's the shop front, isn't it?
Yeah, Instagram mainly, a little bit on YouTube, and that's it really.
Cool, alright guys, well thank you very much.
Thanks for coming.
Catch you soon.